Hey yo, what's good y'all, it's Stinger, and in the next few uploads, I'm just going to be going over how I do the stuff that I do in my beats, meaning I'm going to make a tutorial on how I mix my melodies, how I mix my drums, how I master my beats, how I arrange my beats, stuff like that. And today we're going to be going over how I mix my melodies. Now, quick disclaimer, I'm just some YouTube producer, okay? I don't have a freaking degree in mixology, okay? So keep in mind, don't take this as gospel. It isn't going to work for everybody, but it's just what works for me. So with that being said, let's go right into how I mixed this melody. Alright, so here's the melody that we're going to be going over today, and this is what it sounds like with zero effects. So far it sounds like cheeks. Everything sounds like it's an individual component rather than a whole melody glued together. Alright, so when I mix my melodies, I have two separate methods that I use. The first method that I use is I mix the melodies individually. And then after that, I'll route them all to one track and mix them as a whole to kind of glue it all together. So when it comes to mixing the individual melodies, I have two effects that are on every single melodic component. First being an EQ taking out the low ends, and then a reverb if I feel like the melody needs it. And then on this, I also have a fruity delay too with the widen preset, because I felt like this melody was a little bit too thin. After that, I just have a couple EQs very gently taking out some harsh frequencies. So without any effects, this is what the piano sounds like. And this is what it sounds like with those effects. Alright, for the next melodic component being this guitar, yet again I have an EQ taking out the low end, as well as this reverb, and an extra reverb being Valhalla Supermassive. This guitar sounded a little bit too dry, and I wanted it to fit in with the mix a little bit more, so naturally I threw this on. And then yet again, I also have another EQ gently taking out some harsh frequencies. So without any effects, this is what the guitar sounds like. And this is what it sounds like with the effects. Alright, and after that we have the vocals. And yet again we have that EQ taking out the low end, as well as a reverb with the wet up a bit and the dry down a bit. And then I also boosted the size on this to make the vocals sound a little bit more big. And yet again I have another EQ gently taking out some harsh frequencies. So this is what it sounds like with no effects. And this is what it sounds like with those effects. Same thing as the guitar, it's not a huge difference, but it's not as dry and it makes it sound a little bit more interesting. Next thing that I have down is a pad, and you guessed it, we have an EQ taking out the low end as well as a reverb. And then I also threw on Valhalla Supermassive on this yet again because I felt like it was a little bit too overbearing, so I wanted to put it in the background of the mix a little bit more. And then I also have this super cool free plugin called Pancake 2. Pancake is a panning automation VST that allows you to pan the melody left and right and create some really cool patterns. And this is super helpful, especially in FL, because the automation clips in FL are actually just scuffed. So yet again, this is what it sounds like without the effects. And this is what it sounds like with the effects. Alright, so now that we have mixed all of our melodic components individually, this is what they sound like all together. Sounds better, but still not perfect. And that is where this melody bus comes into play. In order to get all of your melodies onto one bus, just select all of your melodic components, right click on this little arrow, and then hit route to this track only. And then all I have on that is OTT at just about 50% depth, fresh air to give it a little bit more high end, as well as Soothe 2, which is a dynamic EQ that takes out any kind of resonant frequencies, and a final EQ taking out the low ends. So here's the comparison of what it sounds like with and without the effects. So this is without. And this is what it sounds like with the effects. Now, some people may think that I took out too many frequencies, and like I said, this isn't a definitive tutorial on how to mix your melodies. It's just how I mix my melodies. That's how I like them sounding. So that is going to pretty much cover how I mix my melodies. Hopefully you enjoyed the tutorial and learned something new. If you have any questions, please feel free to throw them in the comments down below, and I will do my best to answer them. Also, consider subscribing, as I post 4 tutorials every week, 2 long ones and 2 short ones. Other than that, that's going to be it. Peace.